Our wedding anniversary had arrived, and my husband, daughter, and I sat around the table, sharing a delicious meal together. Laughter and warmth filled the room, the kind of atmosphere that made special occasions truly memorable. As we finished eating, my husband, Kenny, stood up, his lips curling into a small, eager smile. "I got us something special for tonight," he said, his voice rich with anticipation. "A fine bottle of wine, I hope you'll like it." "That's so thoughtful of you," I replied, matching his smile. "Where's the wine opener?" "In the kitchen." Without hesitation, he headed toward the kitchen, his movements smooth, almost rehearsed. A moment later, he returned with a single glass of wine, presenting it to me with a flourish. "Here you go, try it," he said, his gaze fixed on me. "Cheers to us," I said, raising the glass before taking a sip. The moment the liquid touched my throat, a violent burning sensation spread through my body, my chest tightened, panic surged, I gasped for air, but none came. I can't breathe," I choked out, collapsing to the floor, my hands clawing at my throat. Our 7-year-old daughter, Holly, shrieked in terror. "Daddy, Mommy's sick, we need to call an ambulance," she cried, her tiny body trembling. But Kenny didn't move, he just stood there, watching. His silence, his complete lack of reaction, sent a deeper chill through me than the suffocating pain itself. Holly clung to me, sobbing uncontrollably, but Kenny remained unmoved. Then, without a word, he stepped forward, coldly pushed her aside, and walked out the front door. As soon as the door clicked shut, I sat up, taking in ragged breaths, my mind racing. This wasn't just an accident. This was attempted murder. My name is Mary, I'm 34 years old, a composer, a woman with a career that provides a comfortable lifestyle, thanks to royalties from a hit theme song I wrote years ago. I met Kenny at a wedding after-party. He worked in sales for a liquor company, and our mutual love for alcohol had drawn us together. His reckless spontaneity had once been charming. Now, I saw it for what it truly was, irresponsibility. We married, had a daughter, and built a life together, or at least, I thought we did. After Holly was born, it became painfully clear that Kenny had no interest in helping with childcare. His idea of parenting was calling out from another room. "Hey Mary, Holly's crying. I'm cooking, can you check on her? It's a hassle, she likes you better." Excuses, always excuses. "Kenny," I pleaded one evening, exhaustion thick in my voice, "I can't do everything alone, can you help, just a little?" "Why should I?" he scoffed. "I work all day, you're the one at home." "But I have a career too, I write music, manage deadlines, this isn't just your responsibility, it's ours." "Then hire a nanny," he said with a shrug, already looking back at his phone. And just like that, the conversation ended. Over the years, I stopped expecting help. I managed everything alone, our home, our child, my career. Kenny was there, but never truly present. Holly grew quickly, and by the time she was 5, she was ready for elementary school. My in-laws, kind and well-meaning, invited us for a celebratory dinner. At the table, Holly proudly showed off her new backpack. "Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma," she beamed. My father-in-law chuckled, pouring me a drink. "Mary, you've done a wonderful job raising her." I smiled, though the weight of responsibility was something I carried alone. "Well, she's my daughter," Kenny interjected with forced pride. I chose not to correct him. "I hear you're composing the theme song for an upcoming movie," my mother-in-law said. "Yes, it's releasing next month," I replied. "Kenny, you have an amazing wife, you must be so proud," my father-in-law remarked. But Kenny's expression darkened. Then, with a voice edged in resentment, he muttered, "She makes all this money, yet I don't see any of it." The table fell silent. "What?" his mother asked, stunned. "She's a big-name composer, right? You'd think we'd live like it." The bitterness in his words cut deep, but in that moment, I realized something important. Kenny never wanted a partner. He wanted a paycheck. And now, he had tried to get rid of me for it. "She never gives me any pocket money and refuses to improve our quality of life. She's stubborn and stingy," Kenny complained, his voice laced with frustration. My mother-in-law's expression hardened. "Hold on, Kenny, you both live in a beautiful apartment. Did Mary buy that?" My father-in-law nodded in agreement. And isn't it a man's role to support his family rather than rely on his wife? Have you considered working harder to increase your own income? Kenny scoffed, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Yeah, I got it, he muttered, effectively ending the conversation. I sat there, torn between irritation at his selfishness and gratitude for my in-laws' unexpected support. The growing distance. Not long after, Kenny started coming home late, claiming work kept him busy. At first, I didn't think much of it, his sales job often required overtime. But soon, even on his days off, he barely spent any time at home. When he was around, he was glued to his phone, his interactions with Holly and me growing increasingly cold. One Sunday, Holly had been eagerly looking forward to an outing with her father. As the morning sun streamed through the windows, she gently shook him awake. Dad, it's already 9 o'clock, remember? Today was our special day. Kenny suddenly sat up, but instead of responding, he roughly shoved her aside. Holly stumbled backward, her small frame shaking with surprise, tears welling in her eyes. What are you doing? I demanded, rushing to scoop her into my arms. My voice was sharp, edged with anger. Kenny let out an irritated sigh. I have other things to do today, he snapped. I needed more sleep. You made a promise to your daughter, I shot back, and how could you push her like that? Be quiet, you're both in my way. Get out of the bedroom, he barked before getting up, dressing with unusual care, and leaving the house without another word. I held Holly tightly, soothing her as she sobbed into my shoulder. My doubts about Kenny deepened, solidifying into something heavier than before. The truth revealed. A month later, after an exhausting day of work, I collapsed into bed after tucking Holly in. In the middle of the night, thirst pulled me awake. As I made my way to the kitchen, I heard Kenny's voice coming from the living room. He was on the phone, his tone uncharacteristically warm. Curious, I hesitated, listening. Then, his words froze me in place. Beth, you're the only one I love. My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounded. Just as I was about to confront him, his next words sent a wave of icy dread through me. Also, start the plan for the wedding anniversary in 3 days. Everything will go as planned. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This wasn't just an affair. Kenny was scheming something. Carefully, I slipped my phone back into my pocket, having recorded the entire conversation, and retreated to the bedroom unnoticed. Kenny returned later, falling into a deep sleep beside me. I lay there, eyes wide open, my body rigid with realization. Taking action. By morning, my sadness had burned away, replaced by something stronger. Anger. I refused to be a victim. After Kenny left for work, I set my plan in motion. I went to an electronics store, purchased security cameras, and discreetly installed them throughout the house. 3 days later, on our wedding anniversary, Kenny was unusually affectionate. Mary, today is special, he said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Yes, it is, I replied evenly. I'm glad you remembered, he continued, his tone light. Of course, I said. Kenny grinned. I know I've been coming home late, and I'm sorry, but tonight, I'll be home early. Let's celebrate. I'm looking forward to it, I told him. I've prepared a special meal. He leaned in slightly, voice soft. Mary, I truly love you. I simply nodded. As soon as Kenny left for work, I continued my own preparations, ones he could never have anticipated. That evening, right at 6 p.m., Kenny walked through the door. A lavish dinner was laid out before him, candlelight flickering over the dishes I had prepared. How was your day, Kenny? I asked, my voice calm. Dad, you came home early today, Holly exclaimed, running to him with excitement. She was beaming, her innocence a painful contrast to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I swallowed hard, looking at her. I'm sorry, Holly, I whispered, though she couldn't hear me. Kenny glanced around, taking in the feast. His eyes gleamed with something unreadable. The game had begun. I had everything prepared, carefully setting the stage for the evening. Wow, this looks amazing. Shall we dig in? Kenny said with an eager smile, clearly excited by the meal. Holly and I exchanged a glance as we sat down, both of us trying to play along with his act, though I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling stirring in my chest. We ate together, making polite conversation, but underneath it all, I was bracing myself for the next part of the plan. As we finished the meal, Kenny reached for something he'd set aside earlier. I bought a special wine for our anniversary, he said, the smile never leaving his face. I think you'll really like it. That's very thoughtful of you, I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the anxiety that knotted in my stomach. I'll go ahead and open it. Is the wine opener in the kitchen? His tone was strangely rehearsed, almost mechanical as though he'd practiced it. Then, he disappeared into the kitchen, returning moments later with the bottle in hand. He poured the wine into my glass with a flourish, handing it to me like an offering. Here, give it a try. Thank you, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Cheers. The moment the wine touched my lips, panic surged through me. I barely had time to react. I can't breathe, I gasped, clutching at my throat, my body starting to collapse to the floor. Holly's terrified cries echoed in my ears. Daddy, something's wrong with Mommy, call an ambulance. But Kenny stood there, silent, his cold gaze watched me struggle, his expression unreadable. Holly, panicking, clung to his clothes, begging for help. When I stopped moving, Kenny simply pushed Holly aside and walked out of the room without a word, as if nothing had happened. I lay there, motionless for a moment, then, once the front door clicked shut, I forced myself to sit up. Holly, looking as if she couldn't comprehend what had just unfolded, stared at me, her face streaked with tears. I gently pulled her into my arms. I'm so sorry, Holly, I whispered, it was all just a prank, a horrible one, I never meant to scare you. Holly's small, trembling voice responded, a prank? I thought I lost you. I stroked her hair, trying to calm her as the truth of the situation sank in. The unraveling. That night, when Kenny returned home, it was late, far later than I expected. Is Holly asleep already? He asked, sounding irritated. I stepped into the living room, flipping the lights on. He froze, his face going pale as he saw me standing there. Why are you still here? He stammered, caught off guard by my sudden appearance. I've been waiting for you, I said coolly, not bothering to hide the icy calm in my voice. It was all an act, Kenny, I overheard your plan. His face twisted into a scowl, but I continued, unaffected. The conversation I heard wasn't by accident. You were careless. I could still hear the words ringing in my mind. You'll handle the poison, right? It needs to be colorless, odorless, tasteless. She loves wine, so it'll be easy. Afterward, we'll stage it as a suicide due to stress. Once she's gone, we'll inherit everything, the insurance, the royalties, even the apartment. It'll be the start of our new life. Kenny's face turned a shade darker, his anger mounting. You eavesdropped? You're despicable. I didn't need to eavesdrop to figure out what you were doing, I replied coldly. Talking about this at home was your mistake. His anger flared as he grabbed my bag and yanked something out of it, a small, unfamiliar bottle. This isn't mine, I said, recognizing it immediately. It was poison. Kenny's voice dropped to a growl. Now that you know, I have no choice but to make you drink this. He stepped closer, the bottle gleaming in his hand. I tried to back away, my heart racing. There's still time to stop, I pleaded, my voice shaky but firm. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a loud, authoritative voice. Kenny, stop. Both my in-laws appeared in the doorway, their faces filled with disbelief and disappointment. Why are you two here? Kenny demanded, looking utterly bewildered. We've been here all evening, watching, my father-in-law said coldly, pointing to a surveillance camera mounted in the corner. We've been monitoring the feed from another room, he added, his voice laced with disgust. We saw everything, from when you poured the poison into the glass to when you hid it in Mary's bag. Kenny's face drained of color as the reality of his situation hit him. That's not all, I added, pulling out my phone. I played the recorded conversation, every chilling word of his plot. Kenny's shoulders slumped as the truth hit him. With the video footage, the audio, and the poison in hand, there was no escaping the consequences. Kenny dropped to his knees before his parents, tears streaming down his face. Dad. Mom, please help me, I don't want to go to jail, I never meant for this to happen. You idiot, my father-in-law hissed, delivering a sharp blow to Kenny's face that sent him sprawling on the floor. My mother-in-law looked on with disdain. You didn't even think about Holly, my father-in-law continued. You made her cry. I can't forgive you for that. I can't even call you my son anymore. "We've already contacted the police," he said, his voice cold and final. "They'll be here soon. It's over, Kenny." Kenny stumbled toward me, desperation in his eyes. "Please, Mary, forgive me. If you don't press charges, I won't be arrested. I love you. Let's start over, as a family with Holly." "Do you think I could ever believe that?" I said, my voice steady but resolute. "After everything you've done? You tried to kill me. I'll never forgive you." "I'm sorry, please, don't let them arrest me," he begged, but I shook my head. "I will never forgive you," I repeated firmly. Before he could say another word, the sound of sirens drew nearer. A new beginning. After the arrest, Kenny and his mistress were both convicted in court and sentenced to prison. We finalized our divorce through lawyers, and his parents provided me with a significant sum as compensation for their son's actions. Kenny's mistress, a pharmacology student, had stolen the poison from the university, intending to use her knowledge to harm me. I pursued compensation from her family, who swiftly paid. I have no intention of ever forgiving her. While Kenny serves his sentence, neither I nor his parents have visited him. They've made it clear they'll support him after his parole, but I won't be part of it. I hope our paths never cross again. Holly and I have relocated to a quiet place, where we can rebuild and heal. One day, I told her, "Your dad is working far away now." Her reply was simple and unwavering, "He doesn't have to come back." I couldn't help but smile, though it was tinged with sadness. From now on, I'm focused on the future, the calm, peaceful life that I will build for Holly and me.